What's going on to all my 007 fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new early movie review, and this is a big one. This is a film we've been waiting a very long time for, and that is the new James Bond 007 No Time to Die, which I got a chance to check out early, and I'm so excited to let you all know what I thought about this movie and let you know if it's worth checking out in this spoiler-free review. Before we break it all down, do me a favor and check me out on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. If you enjoyed this spoiler-free review, make sure to like and share the review. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And in those comments, let's talk about this film that has been in production hell for almost 3 years. Let me know if you're excited for it, but more importantly, once you've seen this movie, we gotta talk about it in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on Daniel Craig's performance, the newcomers, the villains, the score, the cinematography, the direction. What were some of the things that didn't work for you all? But more importantly, I want to know, since this is Daniel Craig's last time in the role, and if you've seen all his roles as James Bond, let me see your rankings. Let me know your favorite Daniel Craig 007 film to your least favorite. Let's share that list in the comments. I'm going to give you guys mine at the end of this video, but let me know yours in the comments below. So let me talk about this movie for a little bit, because this has been a production hell. Number one, I remember back in 2018, Daniel Boyle was supposed to direct the film, but he left due to creative differences. And I know this film has lost so much money with, I believe, full marketing pushes. The main song by Billie Eilish came out almost 2 years ago. But man, you look at the calendar shifting of November of 2019 to early 2020 to late 2020. I mean, this film has been through hell, but here we are talking about it. Starting off with just letting you all know, I would consider myself a casual James Bond film. I have seen a Sean Connery, I've seen a Dalton's films, I've seen all of Pierce Brosnan's films, and I've seen all of Daniel Craig's run. I own all of them. So I just want to put that out there. I'm not an expert by any means, but I enjoy this character for what it is, especially Daniel Craig. He's my personal favorite James Bond. So let's talk about the positives here, and also let me know, who is your favorite James Bond? Let me know in the comments, but let's get into this review, starting off with the man behind the camera, Cary Fukunaga, who I'm a big fan of. I think he's a very talented individual, whether it be what he did with True Detective Season 1 and obviously his involvement behind the scenes with the other 2 seasons, Beast of No Nation, Maniac, his involvement with it. I think all of those very different, diverse projects have led him to this very point, because I think Cary absolutely bodied the direction of this film. I thought not only did he be able to manage the paying homage to the James Bond lore and everything that's came before it, but more importantly, pay homage and pay homage to Daniel Craig's run in the films, and just seeing his progression and all the different things that he's went through since 2006 to this very point, and also just pushing the narrative forward, giving his own sensibilities, giving his own passions and creative choices to this character that seems like he's loved, because this seems like a very passionate direction from Cary. And I was just so impressed by, again, his creative choices, the stuff that he made that just put me on the edge of my seat. And again, just my personal opinion, it was so much on his plate to give Daniel Craig, who again has been in this role since 2006. I thought that he gave him such a proper outing in this role and gave so much heart to this film and so much charm and so much charisma. And I personally think this is the most emotional James Bond film I've personally ever seen. Again, I haven't seen them all, but I was pretty emotional with this film. And I think that's all due to not only the writing and the performances, but also the direction, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. But let's transition into what's in front of the camera, the actual performances. First and foremost, all the characters that have been involved with Daniel Craig's run, from the Q's character to Moneypenny to M, who had a lot to do in this film, to Felix making a comeback, to Tanner making a comeback role. They were all fantastic. But also, I want to talk a little bit about my enjoyment of some of these newcomers, starting off with Lashana Lynch, who got so much hate 2 years ago when the word came out that she was going to be the new 00, taking on the new 00 role. But I think she was fantastic. She not only was able to hold her action, she was incredible in the action sequences. She was charming. She had much charisma for days. But it was how she was able to go toe-to-toe with Daniel Craig from an acting perspective that really made me just so impressed by her. I was a fan of her when she was in Captain Marvel and some other projects I've seen her in, but she was definitely a breath of fresh air. I thought she was absolutely fantastic. Ana de Armas, who I'm a big fan of. She is a newcomer. She doesn't have a big role. She doesn't have like a whole character arc in this film, but she is a CIA agent helping Bond with a particular mission, and I thought that she kicked a lot of ass in the role. But I got to talk about the villain here because I'm a big fan of good villains, and I thought Rami Malek as the villain in this film, Safin, I thought that Rami Malek brought his A game in this role, ladies and gentlemen. I do have issues with like the use of the character and what the character was about in a certain extent, which we'll talk about in my criticisms, but I thought when you first met this character, he was menacing from the first time you saw him, so I thought Rami Malek was great in the role, which also brings me to another character making their return from Spectre, and that is Léa Seydoux as Madeline, who was absolutely incredible. She had her continuation from her story from Spectre and just added more to the emotions to that character, had a lot to do in this film, and I thought that she, again, brought everything in the emotional range in this role, and her arc again from Spectre to this was fantastic. It was a great handoff from Spectre to this film, which I would recommend if you all haven't seen Spectre or haven't seen it in a while. Watch Spectre and then go into this film. You'll really appreciate the connective tissues between those two films. But I gotta spend some time, shine some light on the man who first was suited up in the suit and tie in 2006, and that is Casino Royale, and this is Daniel Craig's last time in the role. And I believe personally, and I've seen them all, as far as his run as James Bond, I think this is my favorite performance of his as Bond. And I say that because I think all the stuff which I think emotionally wise, character wise, we got a lot of like backstory from him in Skyfall and seeing where he came from and all that stuff from that film, but I think that this film adds to that what we got from Skyfall from a more of a personal stakes. There's a lot of stakes in this film. Like, I felt the stakes. That's why I was like on the edge of my seat and got so emotional at certain points, because I was really invested not only in the character but in the narrative that they were telling here. But I think that this is the character at top form, and there are even moments when the film is very meta, just paying homage and just showing the respect to Daniel Craig, and like, we need you, Bond. I really appreciated how they handled it, and he was just so badass. Just brings me back to 2006, that brutality, just how he's able to handle his own, how he has the license to kill. And I thought Daniel Craig had to not only come from a badassness standpoint, but just, again, going back to the emotions, facing his demons from his past, but, you know, having the personal stakes involved with the demons of his past, and how they were able to manage to hold those two narratives really strong was very important. And I think that Daniel Craig, whether it was every time he was on screen, every line of dialogue, I thought he brought his A++ game, and you can tell that this meant something to him. You can tell that this meant a lot to him to be able to play this role for as long as he has, and it's the last time he's in the role, and I thought that he deserved all the flowers, all the praise. He was fantastic in this movie, and you know, I wish I had a drink with me here, but cheers to you, Daniel Craig, in the role. You're my favorite Bond, and you definitely delivered in the role. So let's transition from direction, performances, to the action and the themes here. I thought that the action was absolutely mind-boggling. From the opening sequence, without spoiling anything, I love the first 15 minutes of this film and how it starts from a particular POV and addressing the sins of the past, and just being like extremely haunting opening sequence, to cutting to this balls to the wall action, motorcycles, cars, just emotion, all within that first 15 minutes was fantastic. And I was just beyond impressed by every action set piece in this film. Every action scene in this movie was just incredible. It was unique, it was visceral, and it had stakes. I can't stress that enough. Like I said, the Bond films I've seen in the past, they're fun, you know, they have the action, but sometimes I just feel like they lack stakes. But this film has some really serious personal stakes, and my personal favorite action scene, without giving away, it involves a moment in the forest and James Bond being a complete badass, and I'll just leave it at that. But I also want to touch on the themes a little bit here in regards to time and making the best use of your time in this film. I thought it was a running theme throughout the film, and I thought it was perfectly used throughout the movie, from, you know, metaphorically speaking, the use of time, but literally the sense of time was very critical and very important to the narrative of this film, which I thought really kind of hit, especially when we get to the third act and the emotions that come out of that third act. I thought that the use of time and the way that they used that word time was very important and used really well. But I can't leave without mentioning, last thing on my positives, the GOAT, Hans Zimmer score. Perfect. So let me go on to my criticisms. I don't have many to pick from. You know, I found myself really invested in the story again. The action was incredible. The narrative was really engaging. And this film's 2 hours and 43 minutes, and I was really, really locked in. But there are some scenes, without diving too deep into the scenes, that I felt like they tried to inject some comedy, which James Bond has some, you know, comedy every now and then. it doesn't take itself too seriously, but the times that they injected comedy didn't work for me, and two particular scenes come to mind. There's a scene that takes place in Cuba that involves Ana de Armas' character trying to save a scientist that I felt that the comedy was a little bit kind of unnatural in the moment of the scene. And then later on in the film, we have Naomie, who's the new Bond, played by Lashana Lynch. She has the same interaction with that same scientist, and he refers to her race, and I felt like that was kind of shoehorned in, and this really didn't fit in the scene at all, and I just felt like it was just kind of unnecessary in my opinion. Which brings me to characters that I didn't think fit well in this narrative. One being, as you can see, I mentioned the scientist twice now. I won't say how important he is, but he is very critical to what's going on in the film in regards to the villain and the plot and everything like that. And I thought that scientist was kind of used as comic relief, and comedy is very subjective, but I felt like the comic relief was not necessary with that particular character, and I felt like that characteristics could have been a little bit differently, and I just wasn't a fan of the scientist in this film. And also there's a CIA agent by the name of Logan Ash, another character that I felt was kind of used as kind of a comic relief, and there's something that happens with that character that I didn't think that we needed that Logan Ash character at all. So those are two characters that didn't work for me. But lastly, the thing that comes to mind is the villain of this film. Again, the performance by Rami Malek was absolutely great, but I felt like the villain was a little underutilized. I feel like in the second half of the film, it's almost like the villain was almost forgotten about, and I feel like that happened because there's another villain in this film, and a spoiler for you all that haven't seen Spectre, Blofeld. They bring him into this film, and I feel like the film, which by the way, Blofeld was so much better in this movie than he was in the entire film of Spectre, which by the way, this film, No Time to Die, makes Spectre a better film. I'll just kind of leave it at that without diving into the spoilers. But I thought Blofeld was much better in this movie, but I felt like the film didn't know how to balance, okay, we're going to take Safin out of the film and give you a little bit more Blofeld, but I didn't feel like the balance of the two villains meshed well, in my personal opinion. So before I give you all my overall thoughts and my score and let you know if it's worth checking out, make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course subscribe to the channel. Overall, this is easily the most emotional 007 Bond film that I've ever seen. This film is big in scope and scale, and I highly recommend you all checking out in IMAX. It's very bold in its choices. It has incredible non-stop action, and you will be on your edge of your seat from the beginning to the end. And I personally think that this is more than a satisfying conclusion to the Daniel Craig run as the role of 007. So with all that being said, I'm going to give No Time to Die a 4.5 out of 5. This film was so much fun. It was so many emotions. It was so many great moments, and I can't recommend it enough for you all. And again, if you have the opportunity, see it in IMAX. So all that being said, let me get down to the last part, which is my rankings of the Daniel Craig run as 007. Let me start off with number 5. Quantum of Solace. I'm going to go number 4 is Spectre. Number 3 is No Time to Die. Number 2 is Casino Royale. And my number 1 James Bond film, as well as Daniel Craig film that I've seen, has to be Skyfall. So that's my rankings. Let me know your rankings. That's my review. Let me know your pros, your cons, your thoughts on this film, and let's talk about it in the comments. Before you all leave, make sure, I want to thank you all for sticking on to this point in the video. Before you head out, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. As you can see on the screen now, subscribe to the channel, check out my other content. Hope you all enjoyed this review, and we'll see you on the next one.